Hey guys, welcome to another battle report. This time it's War and Sorcery, and that's the fantasy version of the War and Conquest rules. It doesn't really change the rules a lot. Obviously, it opens up a couple more lists that have been made up by Rob. And of course, we got magic as well, so we've got a couple of wizards. But what you'll see here is I've got a Shadow Goblins army, taken from the Orcs and Goblins list. My opponent is just basically using 100 Years War English, with the addition of a magic caster. So this is the basic setup here. The scenarios that we rolled for, obviously the setup was the foot in on either side of the table edge, I believe, and the what they called objective cards we got. I believe mine was to get into my opponent's deployment zone while having none of my own. And I think, funny enough, my opponent had the same one as well. So that's what we'll be both aiming for. Obviously, at the time, we didn't know what the other opponent had. I'll just have a quick go through and have a look at all the different units. This might take some explaining, and bear with me. Apologies for the blurry photo, there seems to be a few of them in here. The model at the back there, that's just representing his camp. A camp has to be shown in a Game of War and Conquest because some of the scenarios dictate heading towards the camp. On the left hand side there you've got some light cavalry. They got heavy armour and lances. Then you've got a large unit containing both English billmen and bowmen. Then his very nasty centre, where we've got two retinue longbowmen, so they've got a good shoot value, and of course they've got the longbow, so they've got the range. In behind there you'll see a wizard. The red tokens next to him are his magic intervention points to help cast spells and stop enemy spells. And then you've got his commander there as well, also with a couple of markers next to him. They hit their strategy intervention points. And then again we've got another unit of billmen and bowmen. They're not crossbowmen, as you can see there, they're bowmen. And finally on the far side we've got his heavy cavalry, and I have no answer to these guys. I mean, these guys are trotting in with a 2+ save. Basically they count as having a high durability, so in Warhammer terms they're making like defense 4. So it's going to be hard lot to shift these guys, but I'll see what I can do. So on my right hand side I'm starting off with some bowmen. In skirmish, they could actually have short bows, and then I have a unit of shadow goblins. In there, there's a troll, and there is a crazy, aka the fanatic, and also in that unit, I believe I've got a captain or chieftain, goblin chieftain as well, just to give them a bit better morale. Hopefully, they'll succeed by themselves, and then another unit of archers as well. In the background there, you can see my camp. Camp's also important because it's also the point that your men flee towards after the initial flee from combat and that. So you can kind of control where your men are going to flee. So continuing on, I've got another unit of shadow warriors. Keep saying shadow warriors. Shadow goblins. They are 18 men with spear and shield, and then the back rank is made out of bowmen, because they can volley fire if I don't move, and it just gives me an extra few shots at the back there. And in that I've also got my wizard, who's maxed out with something like 4 magic intervention points. He comes with the spells. One that gives me a +1 to my combat value, one that will give me D3 extra magic intervention points or strategy intervention points, one that debuffs armor, and finally the dispel as well. Next to that we then have my leader and his unit. That's in behind, sorry, so I'm looking at a little image now. Leader and his unit's in behind, again 18 spearmen and 6 bowmen, and at the front we have the same as the other side, a troll and crazy as well. Finally on my far left I've got some bowmen as well. So this is my opponent's first turn, and he's starting to move up, as you can see here. And the massive 100 Years War shooting starts, and I lose a couple of goblins, but not too bad a loss. A couple of the goblin archers also go down. Okay, just to quickly mention that the line of sight for archers or whatever is like a 180 line in the front of your troops. Of course, that's your skirmishes, then you have the nice 360. If you're using something like the volley fire or any shooting at all, you can only fire to your front assault facing, which is basically a corridor the width of your unit going straight forwards. You cannot shoot with volley fire outside that arc, so your target has to be within that arc. And what else is it? And if you're shooting outside that arc with a normal front rank of troops, you only fire with half of them. So you have to be facing up. So that's why my opponent's gone for quite wide on his units as well. So this is not me just moving, this is me failing my argumentative tests for the game. As you can see here, my archers decided to run up and my 2 units with trolls ran up. Also, unfortunately, my wizard, I believe, failed and couldn't do anything this turn. But I might be wrong with that one, it might be in a later turn he gets that. Nope, we're okay this turn. So all the rest of my units just follow up. When these guys charge forwards, they charge forwards with an extra d6 inches. So as you can see, they've really shot up there. And it's a bit worrying. I don't want anything in front of my troll units, because when they don't suffer from the argumentative, they suffer from troll stupidity or whichever it is. And basically, on a 4, if I fail the morale check on a 4+, they'll surge forwards an extra d6 as well. And they get some extra impact hits when they... or impact charge bonus when they end up in combat from that as well. So they're rushing up well ahead of the rest of the lines. So on the left hand side here, I managed a couple of sneaky shots off and managed to damage one of the light cavalry. And this is how it's looking at the end of my turn. I did try some magic. I tried to get the extra d3 strategy interventions or magic intervention points. Didn't get it. My opponent as well, he doesn't do very much magic in the early part, because basically I think 4 magic intervention points, and I just spend them to stop him casting his spells if he casts any. He was a bit unlucky, and I know he failed to cast quite a few spells in this game. Casting a spell in this game is basically a morale test. If you roll equal under your morale, you cast the spell. You can then spend the magic intervention points to add an extra d6, just like strategy intervention points and morale. So you get to roll 3 dice, picking the 2 lowest for whichever. But then there is the chance of things going bad. Basically, if you roll 2 or more 6s, there's a chance you'll lose a life. The bigger, more powerful spell you use, the more dangerous it is to the wizard. So if you're using like a normal spell, I think it's on a 6 you take a wound. No, on a 5 up you save a wound. And if it's a deadly spell, on a 6 up you save the wound. And I think there's 666 or something. And basically, if you fail this, if you roll the extra 6s in that, you die instantly. So there is risk of rolling extra dice, but obviously it makes you more likely to cast a spell. My opponent moves up, as you see there, most of his archers and that stay still, ready to shoot at me. But his cavalry moves up, I believe he charges down the bottom. Again, this frontal assault arc, assault facing this corridor, it's straight ahead. You're allowed to charge at twice your distance if your enemy's in that. Else you can only charge a normal distance, which makes charging towards your flank and that quite hard going. My skirmishers down here roll for an evade. This is basically a skirmish way of fleeing. If I pass a morale test, they rally automatically, and luckily my general's nearby and I could pass my morale test. The shooting continues. He's going to try and take out some more of my guys with my troll in it. Good call. My troll has got 4 attacks, hitting on 5s though, but kills on 3s, which is quite nice. More volleys, kill a couple more over here. And unfortunately I just got within short range of my opponent here. So yeah, he sent a volley from his bowmen and a volley from his longbowmen. And I think his wizard might have got off one of his spells, either the +1 to hit or reroll wounds or whichever it was. And yeah, they decimated these guys. It's a morale check for they. But they passed the morale check quite happily. Thing to note here, characters or personalities, as they're called in this, they join units, but they don't take any place in position of the unit. They basically add a couple of attacks to the unit, as well as being able to use the morale and whatever. Another thing to be aware of, if your unit is shot at, there's always a chance that one of those shots will actually hit and wound your character as well, so you have to roll for that separately. Off the top of my head, I think for each wound the unit takes, you roll a dice. On a roll of 6, there's a chance you'll take a wound on any personality in the unit. Obviously it's divided up evenly, and I think you can have up to 2 personalities in the unit. So this is how it's looking at the end of the turn. This was my turn. Again, the unit with the troll failed its test and charges up. I think the archers on the middle there also failed and end up, as you can see there. And that was it. Archers down on the bottom left here, they just moved up to try and be able to shoot at them and scarper if needs be. I just wanted to move them more onto the board, less chance of them to flee off. Also the excuse me, the camp is not too far behind them that they can flee to. And on the top side, I don't know why I did this, but I turned my unit towards the cavalry in the hope that I could ward them off. But as you see later, that was a pretty dumb move. So this is my opponent's turn. Also, my archers over on this flank as well failed their argumentative test and decided to try and charge the cavalry. But the cavalry themselves passed their morale check or command test to be able to move. Morale is based on, you know, panic and combat and stuff like that. A command test is different, and that allows you to do your maneuvers and such lot. My units are undisciplined, which means I can only ever roll 2d6 for my command tests. Basically in this game it's the same as morale, 2 dice, roll equal or under your morale. But if you're over half strength, you get to use 3 dice for both command tests and morale tests, unless you case of my goblins, which are undisciplined, which I can only roll 2 dice. So yep, they've got in behind my lines, and now my troll is looking at nothing. Down the bottom, if you're wondering why they didn't charge me, again, I was out his front facing, so he would have only charged, what, 8 inches, moved for light cavalry, so he just moved up here to make sure I can't escape. He also decided to charge in with his billmen and bowmen against my troll unit on the left hand side there. Other than that, you can see what it's like. It's a combat about to go down here. These are plastics here that aren't painted yet. These are Perry miniatures. Great miniatures if you like your medieval period. Some more shooting came down and causing a few more casualties, and you see I've also taken a wound on my chieftain. I believe I have a 4+ save against any wounds again on a character, and I think it goes up to 3+ if units over half strength. So yeah, do pretty well to get a wound on a character, though they only have like 2 or 3 wounds, no real armor save. So yeah, I seem to roll quite well, and my opponent didn't roll so well, and I actually managed to hold off. You can see I've removed my crazy. Yeah, he managed to throttle himself. So much for the extra attacks from him. But he can give you an extra 2 or 3 attacks, which is not great on a goblin. But there's also an option he gets a 3 attacks or something, D3 attacks, which are kill 5s, so wounding on 2s with loads of armor penetration as well, which is quite nice. This gives the units a bit more of a buff, but then again you're paying out on personalities, so but I do think I'll be using more crazies in my units in the future. So at the end it looks like this, with the opponent running into my half. I'm assuming that he's trying to get into my half of the table now. He's completely bypassed everything, and I'm trying to push up. I'm desperately trying to get my archers up the other side, but they keep failing their argumentative test, and meaning I'm not doing very much with them. Yeah, in my turn, I've moved my units up, as you can see here. Unfortunately, my archers again failed their argumentative test, and I decided just to stand there and look pretty. One thing with War and Conquest is after you declare charges, all charges have to be declared first, but then the movement is done in any order, which means you can move things like skirmishes out the way, and you can continually charge. So hopefully next turn they'll just move out the way and I'll be able to charge through. And believe it or not, I think I failed my my general over here as well, because I was going to charge in there and try and get some extra help on, but he failed and stood there and watched as the little unit gets pummeled by billmen. And at the end of the combat, it's looking something like that. So yeah, they broke, but my guys all passed the morale check, and we'll be ready for my opponent's turn. So down the bottom here, my opponent manages a command test to reform. There's a -4 modifier, I believe, with enemy within 10 inches. So he managed to reform his unit up into a fighting block now. So he's got his billmen at the front, archers behind still. but now he's got the ranks, which I think helped me in the last one, because he wasn't getting very much combat res. So, yep, he's done that, and I think that's it for here. My inability to cast any flipping spells has... I've been trying to get some magic intervention points, because I've been spending them to stop my opponent casting his abilities to boost up his archers, because that would be really nasty if that happens. But currently I'm out of magic intervention points, and my opponent now gets the +1 to shoot, and I think there might be a +1 reroll or something. But anyway, at the end of the shooting, it looks something like that. Now, he did completely wipe out my unit, but he reduced it to 5 men. Minimum for infantry in this game is 6 men, so 6 men make up a rank as well. If you ever fall below your minimum, you just flee the table. You're too small to count for anything, and I believe it's 4 for cavalry. So yeah, I actually managed to get my archers out of the way of my nice charger unit with a troll. Perfect time to see what these guys can do on the impact. And then, unfortunately, yeah, they failed their argumentative test. And he stands there. I can't believe it, he just stands there. So on the left-hand side, though, my general's unit managed to pass their argumentative test, okay, and charges in ahead. So yeah, it's looking something like this. As you can see, it's pretty much over for the goblins now. Unfortunately, I've got 2 rear charges coming in, and in War and Conquest you don't want to be charged in the rear or flank. It's hard work to overcome it unless you can get another unit there to break whoever's on the flank or rear. So we'll both be fighting with 1 rank only. After that, my opponent will be fighting in 2. You fight with an additional rank in the second rounds of combat, and additional 1 rank. And I'll be fighting an additional 2 because I've got spears as well. But in the meantime, I've got 6 attacks along the front, and my general, I believe, gives me +2 or +3 attacks. So I've got 9 attacks against his 6. I've got light armor the same as him, so I should do alright to scare him off. No, it was a 2 for 2. Though we did realise after this battle my opponent had been playing these as retinue billmen, I believe, which have a better combat instead of the cheap billman, which hit me on 5s to 4s. So he's got a slight edge here at the moment. Excuse me. So, as you can see here, my opponent, he doesn't even bother charging in the front. In fact, I don't think he could, because I wasn't in his front assault arc. So he just turned on the top of the picture there. But his heavy cavalry went in, and of course his light cavalry went down in the bottom as well. This has major problems for my spearmen, because if you're charged in the flank or rear, you become disordered. Disordered means you don't get your supporting extra rank attack, and you don't get your spears. So my chance of having the extra 2 ranks fighting is not going to happen. But at least I've got a chance to put 6 attacks back, and 8 or 9 attacks forwards, depending on what my general had. So at the end of the combat, at the top there, you see the 2 purple dice. Yeah, I managed to roll snake eyes and hold them. They needed it because I wasn't getting any ranks, and I believe my opponent had a rank, and he's charged me in the rear, which would give him +2 combat. And I don't think I did any damage to him, even with my +1/2 attacks from my chieftain there. And my fanatic didn't do anything either. But they managed to stay. But on the bottom, my guys broke. Again, I've got no ranks. My opponent had all the ranks, had a rear charge as well. So he was winning by plenty, and broke him. And there was nothing I could do about it, so we just left it there and shook hands, and that was a game to the English. So yeah, not bad at all. It's good fun to get this game out. I haven't played this in ages. I really miss playing War and Conquest. Unfortunately, we just don't have the players that play it at the moment. But now I'm painting up my empire. I do think I'll be putting these out for some War and Sorcery games, just to see how it goes, and plus I get the fun of building a couple of Warhammer base lists as well. So alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. That was. Hey guys, well as always I have a giveaway. I'm hoping to get to 793 subscribers, 793 being the start of the Viking Age, and for that I've been given, thanks to Griffin Beast, Saga rulebook, the original one with 4 starter boards, which is the Welsh Norman, Viking and Anglo-Danes. 2 lots of Saga dice. I have the Christian faction dice and the Viking dice, and I had some spare plastic berserkers that I had made up for my original Vikings, and they're going in too. So if you're interested in getting these, once I reach 793 subscribers, I will put out the comment on my next video saying hail, and I want you to simply reply in the comment section with Ragnar, and then the first batch that get in there, I'll randomly roll, and one of you will win. So it would be nice and easy, nothing too crazy. All I'm after is subscribers. The more subscribers I get, the more I can ask and chase up for some prizes, and hopefully to make things just a bit more exciting for you. So I hope that's good to you, and I'll see you next time. Farewellas. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm sorry this was quite a long video compared to my normal videos. I know I was explaining a lot, so hopefully in the next game I won't have to explain quite as much to what's going on. So I'll see you next time. Farewellas.